Oh.
Okay, so calling to order at 8:01. Okay, so we have your application here.
Not a very detailed or fancy picture,
No,
but
this is great. It's just so that it's
as
in the,
requested.
so that it's in the file.
Oh, cool, yeah,
Corner.
thank you.
My architectural handwriting is not really up to snuff.
Uh,
And I have three more.
2, 13, right? 13? Yeah.
Three more for the record.
Great, so we'll pop them in the file.
How are you today?
Okay. Okay, so consent is done, Claudio signed, there's your referral, here's the drawing, which is as discussed, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, nothing changed in the drawings from the workshop. Same, thing. Did you guys see the sign, by the way?
I did,
Beautiful.
That
yeah.
looks great.
It's nice.
I haven't seen the sign. You have a new sign?
Yeah, I was here for it. You were
Oh,
on
it
maternity
is.
leave.
Oh.
Oh.
It's like a, what do you call those things?
Directional sign?
Yeah.
It's like a British,
Oh.
you know.
Like a sign
For
with
Sky
lots-
Baby?
Like from MASH.
There's one, yeah, it's called Ascend now, Malia Studio. Ascend,
Oh.
Ascend Yoga and Pilates and
Oh,
bar and
Ascend.
tap. So it's called
Yes, yes.
Ascend, and you know all of our signage is used right now for the retail
Mhm,
space.
mhm.
So we got this other sign.
Oh.
It's a post and it has like a few different directionals.
Nice.
Hudson River, Breakneck.
Oh, one of
One of
those. I know
one
what
of
you mean.
those,
Yeah.
It was
Cool.
good. Signs Inc. They did a great job. Matthew checked.
Any, any questions or comments on the application?
No.
No.
Do we have a motion?
I would move to accept it as submitted.
I was second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I tried to stall off my sign there, but I didn't get more than 2 minutes out of this.
I know.
Here's the deal, Al is traveling, he will be
Al.
back in town, he processes the certificate of
Great.
appropriateness, he'll be back in town on Tuesday. So he'll pick this up from the village office and process the certificate, and then that
Great.
will come to you in the mail. So might be a couple days late, but not much later.
I'm not too worried. It will come to the building?
It will come to your mailing address, 189 Lane Gate, is that cool?
Great, that's perfect.
Okay,
And
so a copy goes to you and to the building inspector, and then you have what you need to apply for your work permit.
Great.
Cool.
Hopefully we can have this done by spring.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Good
Before
luck.
April showers.
Before I
Thank
look
you.
out,
Very efficient.
thank you, officer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Mike?
Okay, and now we are coming out of our voting session
That was the
and
meeting I ever
moving
went to.
into workshop session for 33 Market Street, that being the large house on the site owned by the Cuppers and I'm sorry, not Cuppers.
Crops.
Crupps, and represented again by Bob. Hi,
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
what you got?
So, what we would like to do is remove the portico with the plastic columns at the strange angle
Why?
and sort of rationalize that corner of the building. So there's some pictures of this portico. And so we're talking about, and here, it's kind of nice in the snow, it really outlines it, so it's this portion,
Mm-hmm.
we would like to take this off. And I'm
The
gonna
whole thing
bring
just
out
comes off.
this is almost an embarrassment to bring out, but I think it's.
Oh, you made a
helpful.
model! So cute!
Never brings models.
Mel is the only one who's ever brought a model in my
So-
time.
Anyway, so this is the building,
Uh-huh.
and this is the little portico, and it's at this weird angle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the cottage, this is the guest
Mhm.
house, and if we look at it, if you look at, I think,
The last one I didn't-
this one has the buildings on it, So this is just at this very odd angle. It doesn't relate to anything. Everything else is
Yeah.
sort of very rational, you know, if I put it this way.
I think you can.
Um,
This is
so
the
this
river.
is,
No,
no,
Trying to
the
orient
river's
myself.
over here.
the chapel's here.
Yeah. So if you look here, this is easier. This is Market Street because this is the cottage.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then we're
okay.
putting this courtyard here.
Gotcha.
Here's the guest house.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's this weird angle
Mhm, mhm.
here. So we're talking about taking this away and making a new roof that just sort of finishes this
Mhm.
corner. And right now, there are these two on either side. There's two little flyover copper roofs. And we'd like to kind of match that.
Mhm.
Is that this?
There's that on that, and that's right. This photo here sort of shows this little flyover roof.
Okay.
And it's very complicated, the roof structure to begin
Yeah.
with.
And
Different
that's,
angles.
that is the thing more than anything, I think, that
Mm.
makes that structure feel suburban and out of place. It's like if
Yeah.
you were to pick one element that,
Mhm.
that could make an improvement and blend it in a little bit better, it's that.
So if, I guess I think the best way really to do it is to take this thing off and then mock up the new structure, because there's so many different angles, and I'm not, we've made a pretty rational guess at how it would work, but how it gets tied back into the structure of the house could be very complicated. So, I don't know if that's a possibility, is to say, we want to remove this as an application, and then have another application, mock it up, and then come back and look at it mocked up on site and say, this is the way we wanna do it, and then sort of submit a new application.
So
Would that be
to
possible?
apply to demolish this, pause, do a study, a design study, and come
Mhm.
back with alternatives.
Yeah, and I think we know what we wanna do, but I can't be 100% sure
Until you
that
get it off.
it's achievable and we're gonna be able to I think we wanna be able to mock it up and make sure that this is what looks right. And I
Mhm.
can't really be 100% sure, given all of the angles of the roof, the best way to do it. So,
Members have thoughts on that
we're thinking
approach?
about.
I mean, I think it's fine. Is it, it's hollow inside, right? I mean, it's not.
So, this is what I think. And I am going to, so this is the sort of shingle roof that's below it, and it's going to complete this kind of triangle right here.
Mhm.
I tried to make this roof, and I sort of threw my hands in the air after a while. I was like,
Right.
so anyway, so I think this is a complete roof here. We're gonna do some probes of it. I think this is just built on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you
And it
know,
just
was it
lays
added
over.
later? It looks like it was added
It
on
looks
as like an
like
afterthought or
It was
something.
added on, and if you look at the original drawings, there's a much different portico. It's similar, but the roof is different. It doesn't have the fiberglass.
Mm,
I guess my thought is
ran out of money.
if the goal was, I mean, if the goal was to remove it and do nothing decorative at all to even acknowledge that it was a door, then this elevation, this plane should continue all the way out to the overhang anyway, right? I mean, just from a,
Yes.
I know that you want it to be, I know that the goal is to make it sort of, to make
Square
it
it up.
decorative and square it off, but
It's basically to square
just
it
in
off.
terms of the way that the roof is already built, if this were to come off, then you would assume that this sort of triangle would be
It would just be
complete
like
to the
a-
correct depth, right?
Right. So I think we would be rebuilding the fascia.
Yeah. Okay.
And but I do think what we want to do is to match, one of the other small, copper roofs, so you have an overhang.
Yeah.
And it will also then, it will sort of orient everything so it's square. So it'll be
Right.
square, the roof this way, that way. So It will announce the entrance, but it will not be at odds with the other buildings on the site.
Right.
Yeah, this is the main entrance, visible from the street.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
and it's really visible now that all the
Yeah.
arborvitae are taken down, so if you look at those first pictures, you can really see it.
And the goal would be to, as it's drawn here, if you, if,
Yeah.
on the proposed elevations, if you were able to just totally go ahead, it would be cantilevered, it wouldn't have any columns or anything?
Yes, and that's
Okay.
ideal. Is that possible? I think it really has to, like, we have to really get in to see the structure, and that's why I think I'd like to mock it up.
Yeah.
You know, because we may need to have two very simple columns.
And the little, no, these don't have anything.
Those are not
So the goal,
anything.
that's the goal of what you're,
That is
that's what
the
you
goal.
hope to do, but
Yeah.
you may have to have columns.
Maybe. I think, you know, structurally we could do it if the roof is built like we think it is, but, you know, we have drawings and a lot of things vary from the existing drawings, and there was never like an as-built set of drawings that wasn't required at the time, so,
Okay.
you know. You just don't know until you.
Yeah.
Actually, those original, the approved plans anyway, or there's some version of the drawings for it. I don't know if it was for a change. There's some
Mhm.
version in the file here. It-
And,
go ahead.
I think we have them all, so, I mean, there's.
Yeah, I just, I
yeah.
didn't think that there were, I didn't think there were many permits for the original. Something, there was a permit early on for something. I don't know if it was for the original construction.
Yeah, I believe so.
So what about this, the sort of landing,
So, I don't know if I have it. So if you look at the proposed A1 drawing, there is, so this here is, wood decking that wraps around here, and this is a bluestone courtyard. And so this encapsulates the wood.
oh, with the new
Yeah, because there's
construction?
actually a vault underground that has some mechanical space. So you can kind of see it here. There's this underground vault that's part of the space of the below. So we want to cover that. It's it's being, you know, waterproofed and sealed and,
And that flagstone
you know.
continues all the way across to the cottage portion, right? This is gonna be like a
Yeah, it's a bluestone courtyard.
courtyard
Yeah, so this square area
Yep.
is the
Is that-
courtyard.
location.
And so this is wood decking, and that's wood decking, it sort of wraps both of them as like a one step up. So,
So it'll probably be wood and bluestone,
the ground,
the landing.
The
Oh, that will-
courtyard sort of takes the place.
yeah, and so there will be one step up that will be,
Yeah.
Ipe decking,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and then bluestone is the courtyard. So it will take the place of this, flagstone here.
Got it.
Well, I think that we can make a good enough assumption that the removal of this is not going to adversely affect the overall roof structure. It's really, as Beth said, it's more, the complicated question is how you attach something
Right.
to the roof after the fact.
Mhm.
So, with that assumption, I'd be comfortable approving it almost, as Beth is saying, in two parts, as essentially a demolition of the portico, and then we can look at mock-ups and drawings and everything else for what can go into its place. I think that it's kind of easy to separate the two.
Yeah, I agree,
Yeah.
and I feel comfortable, obviously if this were an historic structure, I might feel differently, but
Right.
I feel comfortable,
Making it look better.
but also helping to tie it back, that, I don't, it's not octagonal, I don't know what it is, that shape
Yeah.
is the thing that really
Mhm.
separates the new building from the old buildings, and finding a way to square it off and bring it into sort of communication with those buildings, I think helps.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with breaking it into two
Yeah,
pieces.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
So I mean, and that's really the goal, is to I mean, there's sort of nothing at that odd angle with that roof shape in the whole streetscape. So if you
Yeah.
just get rid of that and try to rationalize the corner and bring it into, everything is orthogonal to each other and, it's more harmonious that way. So that's
So
the goal.
we meet next again in workshop. I don't know how quickly you are going to be ready to do that, to do an application.
Well, we would do first just an application to take it down,
Yeah.
Right.
which we can do that.
Straight away,
Straight
okay.
away. And then the other one, I think we would really like to take it down and then build something, have a contractor who's on site just mock up
Yeah.
what we're thinking, and then we can have a site visit,
Yeah.
Sure.
if that makes sense.
I'm just thinking about in terms of keeping you moving forward. When that last Wednesday is usually our workshop session.
I think if the application is just to remove the portico,
It
then
can be a simple
we could vote on it in
So
2
if
weeks.
if you can be ready
Sure.
with an application in 2 weeks, we
No
can make
problem.
the first portion of that session a voting session so that we can advertise it as a voting session so that we
Okay.
can accept the application and move it through in one night.
Okay, perfect. And then we'll probably, I think, rather than trying to draw things, because you look at this and I think it doesn't tell you much. So
Right.
I think having a site visit is really the best way to do it.
Sure.
Okay.
We're
And
all
then I
willing to
will,
do that. Fridays are the day that Sean's in the village. Andrea and I are here every
I'm
day.
Okay.
And
Oh, yes,
Carolyn's
you're-
here every day.
yeah,
Al's
okay.
harder during the week, but he can pop by separately on a weekend.
What,
On a
you
Sunday.
on a Sunday? Yeah, okay, and then it will save me from trying to figure out.
Yeah, although-
We'll save you the exact fills. Yeah, and once it's off, I mean, it could even open the door to not really replacing it with anything or anything as big as what you're planning,
It could be something different too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
Sure, it's easy. Thank you. And we'll keep one of these in the file, just
You wanna
because
give
it's
me
not
those
the
back to
final
you, yeah.
anyway.
The other ones, and then I can
Yeah.
use the photographs.
Exactly. Today's the 13th, I can't get the date, and I gotta keep writing.
Valentine's Day.
No, the planning board's meeting tomorrow night, that's, that'll be a
That is
love fest.
romantic.
Okay, so we can knock out some board business,
Yeah.
coming back into voting session. Minutes,
We can only do the 23. The
oh, because
23rd.
Andrew wasn't here on the 9th,
Because Andrew wasn't here on the 9th.
okay. Any, the ones on the 9th, any objection to the,
Okay,
to the,
what are we
to the
voting on?
content, if
I'm
you have
sorry,
any
which
edits
one?
that Michael can make in the meantime? The 1/9/19. I'm sorry, it says workshop, it should say monthly meeting.
Wait, 1919. I wrote those? Are those the ones I wrote?
No, you wrote the
Michael
one-
wrote them. You weren't here.
You
were
wrote the
still out.
123.
Okay, okay.
Hi, Beth.
Bye.
So you can't vote on those.
We can't vote on them because you can't
Yeah,
vote on them. so-
Right, yes,
So we don't have
okay.
quorum for those, but does anybody have any changes that we can make in the meantime?
No, not really. I mean, I think that the kind of discussion of the sleeping area and everything is
Okay, so
self-explanatory.
You
So we're
could
gonna table 1/9.
give me the edits and I can edit it.
I sent it around today.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't catch that yet. Okay.
This was one, Michael did these and I edited them, so you never had
Okay,
them.
are you going to edit them? Like, if there's a correction to be made right now, like, are you in charge of those minutes?
Yeah, I'll do
Okay.
that, I'll finish,
Okay.
that finishes you out cleanly.
Okay, thanks.
But we'll just need to see if anybody,
Yeah.
Next
so
time
we'll
we'll
just bring
see-
them
have
back
to
at
vote
the
on
next
it.
meeting.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, I
the
just
only
wanted to know.
change I see right now is that it says workshop and it should say monthly.
Yeah.
Right, I just didn't know if you wanted me to make that edit or.
Don't worry about it, you
Thanks.
feel comfortable and caught up.
It's easier to know.
Okay, so now we're tabling the 9th and the
I just have something else on the 9th. In the 31 to 33 Market Street.
Yeah.
I think we should just say what the I mean, it was a pretty simple change that they were making, so I don't know the best way to just verbalize what it was. It was just, making the porch on the,
To accommodate handicap access, or you wanted to
yeah,
say
but it
that?
was just making it one level instead of two levels, which is what it was before.
Right.
And also in board business, there's just a typo in the first bullet point. You said the mayors instead of the mayor seeks.
Okay. I like how you accounted, Michael, for the leave
I'm
votes.
sorry, what?
I like how you accounted for Carolyn and Andrea in the vote count.
Cool.
Okay, so how, we can vote on 123 because all three of us were here.
Yep.
I sent round some recommended edits today.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hand them to you since
Excellent.
you're set.
Thank you. Any comments?
I have no comments.
Are you okay with the modifications?
Yeah.
Okay, so motion,
I would move to accept the minutes as modified.
I will second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So then you'll follow up, closing the loop with Michael on those, to get them posted. Oh, I have to sign that set.
Al?
Well, Michael, to get the clean set.
Oh.
However you two work out.
No, I usually, Michael sent this to me.
Yep.
And then I just like edit it and then
Yep.
remove the watermark and I send it to Al.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that one comes back to me, I think. That's the one Al
Okay.
wasn't there for, I think. So check the second page.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
Al
Al
was
was
not there.
absent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so I'll
Okay.
sign those.
All right, so I will email the edited version to you.
Okay. And then, we can't really have a full discussion of budget tonight, but this is due on the 19th.
Yeah.
So, I need to go back to the, our budget that was approved by the trustees and SHPO for the grant for the design standards, cause we did put in an estimate in that for some limited run, print run.
Right.
So we can pull that number from there.
And you, you talked about the training. I don't know what, I know that the state preservation conference, which this year is actually probably gonna be in Buffalo, is usually $75 a person.
Mhm.
And unless you do the camp training, which I did last year and was really helpful, which you can do for free if you're a CLG and they cover your ticket.
Mm-hmm.
The what training?
It's
I'm
It's-
assuming that stands
oh.
for something.
yes, it does, which of course I don't know what.
Okay.
Municipal
Something.
something.
Right.
Associ- oh no, it's the
Municipal-
something.
Yeah, okay. So
Anyway.
it's not like.
It's this training that I did. It's the
YMCA.
day before the state preservation conference, or it's the Thursday of it, and it is training specifically for people who sit on boards of this, basically,
Oh.
or people who work within city
Okay.
preservation planning agencies.
So is it on like, I don't even think I looked
The-
into that email that deeply. Is it on a weekday?
It's usually the preservation conference is usually like the last
Thursday,
weekend
Friday.
in April or the first weekend in
Okay.
May.
Because I remember the last time I didn't go because they had things that I was interested in attending, but they were on like Thursdays and Fridays.
Yeah, so the
Which
camp
made it like
thing,
impossible for me.
the camp thing is usually on Thursday, and then the actual
Yeah.
conference is on Friday, and then on Saturday they have like cocktails and tours and things.
Hmm.
Last year I just went to the training. I actually didn't end up
I remember
going to the
you went,
conference
yeah.
'cause I had to work.
Okay.
I am not inclined to go to Buffalo,
Right.
but
Let me see.
I have
if
family
it-
there, so I was thinking
Well,
it's
maybe you
actually
could then.
feasible. Yeah,
Maybe you
Let me
could.
see if they've announced where it is. It's
Maybe-
always in Albany,
yeah.
one every other year, and then
And it's somewhere in
somewhere
the
west,
state,
but it
yeah.
might even be in Ithaca.
Buffalo's far.
I'd also like to look at, sometimes the Historic Districts Council in New York
Mm-hmm.
puts great conferences together. I mean, they tend to be obviously New York specific, but some of the content,
Mhm.
is helpful. The other organization that I've done training with that was great, which I can see being helpful down the line, is Partners for Sacred Places,
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, assists in the rehab of religious buildings for civic use.
Hmm.
We don't obviously have any of those, but at some point we're probably gonna, it's a question this
Well-
village will face.
Loretto came to us, what, a year ago,
Yeah.
restoring some of their
Well, but-
exterior.
Oh yeah, but that stayed in religious use. This is taking faith-based institutions and that are no longer in use
Mhm.
by the institution and using them for civic space. It's nothing that we have an immediate need for, but you can see
Yeah.
down
Well,
the
we have
line as
churches-
congregations
Yeah, we
shrink.
have them in
Yeah.
St.
And we
Mary's.
have loads of them. Sort of like the chapel restoration. The preservation conference is going to be
Chapel
in
restoration.
Rochester,
Rochester's not super. It's not as far as Buffalo.
and it is April.
Wait, so it's not in Buffalo, it's in Rochester?
It's in Rochester, and it's April 25th through 27th.
I'm sorry.
25th through 27th?
Call for session proposals.
Rochester.
I was going to do a session.
Ra-cha-cha. Rochester is dismal, but maybe by April there'll be some flowers out.
Yeah, I
All right,
think
well,
Utica,
Even if
Like
one
what?
person can go to a training and come back with stuff to
Yeah.
teach others, I'd really love us to be taking advantage of getting somebody to a session
Yeah, yeah.
every year, and we're required to do it, so we need to be doing a better job with it. So you were suggesting the cost of the conference is $75 a person, Sean?
Usually it's 75 a person just to
Remember
go.
So do we wanna put in our budget request for 3 people?
Yeah, I was just gonna look and see where the national conference is this year.
Oh, that's true, the National Trust Conference is a great one too. They're usually in cool places,
Denver.
pricey places too. Sometimes, you know, they'll,
That would be fun.
Charlottesville or
Mhm.
Yeah.
something, and then you can drive to it.
It is in Denver, October 10th through 12th. And let me see, what is the something camp preservation. I can look it up and we can. National Alliance of Preservation Commissions camp.
There we
I don't
go.
know what this. That doesn't make sense though.
There's no M,
National,
but I guess because it makes a word that people can remember.
Oh,
Okay.
it's the Commission Assistance and Mentoring Program.
Elementary program, there we go.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's make a guess at a number, and include that in the budget. I can't think of any supplies that we need. Michael, are there supplies that you need that we should be asking for on our budget line? Pencils, yellow tablets,
It comes out of the general
you
office
get it out of the
supplies.
general office supplies? Okay, I don't know how to deal with the question of a fee. I'm worried that we're gonna to get Tilly to finish, they're gonna ask for something.
Well, how many? I mean, they don't really, unless they used all of the hours that they were allocated in their contract
Yeah,
to give us what they gave us so far.
Mm-hmm.
that's a good
I
point.
mean, we should just see how many hours we have left. It's the thing is, we haven't sent it back for an edit since they gave it
That's
to us.
true.
So even if we rearrange the entire thing and added all new text, it's not that it's necessarily an insignificant amount of time, but
We haven't,
they do it once and then it's done. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
assuming that they should have allocated some time for edits.
that's true.
And we're cutting more than we're adding, so it's really a matter of
True.
them removing things
Yeah.
than it is trying to come up with new information. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's worth a conversation if we want to shoot a little email to Stephanie and just give her an update as to kind of where we are and
Mhm.
just explain that it's been
Mhm.
taking us a long
Okay,
time to
I'll do
do,
that.
and just say, you know, where are we at? We've made some changes to, we've made a lot of edits to the A to Z, and we've
Yeah.
decided that we kind of wanted to pull back on some of the architectural details. How many more hours are in your contract?
Okay, I'll do that. The other thing I wanna do before we meet next is go back to the images and make notation of what we've said we want to pull into the new version and what we wanna replace.
Mm-hmm.
Cause there were a number of places where we thought either a different image or a local,
Yeah, I don't have all my stuff with me, but I was making notes of
Yeah.
things that were useful, because I was still working through a printout that they gave us.
sure. And there were not many, but a few places where we came up with ideas for things that we could photograph
Better
ourselves.
examples, send them.
Yeah, and there were some things that we definitely wanted to exclude,
Yeah,
and some things that weren't actually ours.
okay. I don't understand what the last item is, notices that don't fall under escrow, that the
Yeah.
applicant wouldn't pay for. The only thing I can think of is if it were, if there were some nomination, someone made a nomination.
Mm.
Wouldn't, we wouldn't have the nominator pay for the public hearing. What are our, I mean, it doesn't cost us $80 to have a public
No,
hearing.
but notices would be printing it in the paper.
Right, which is what?
I don't know what it is at this stage. And we could put in one as a budget item. Let me ask Michelle what she
When we only
thinks
have
it.
to advertise
is-
in
I
the
mean, we used to
paper.
do them for every meeting we had, right? I
Right.
mean, didn't we?
Yeah, but
used-
it's been a couple of years, and they were also much longer. It was the full agenda that got printed, and it didn't
Yeah.
need to be printed that way.
Right.
Wow.
So, I don't know, I can
Maybe
find
just
out
one ad, one announcement in a PCR.
as a budget line.
I would, just because we would want it to be public knowledge if there was, a structure or something that was nominated as a landmark, if that's what we're talking about, I think that's public. It's worthwhile public information.
Except I think Sean's right, that the group or person who nominates would,
I mean, I would assume that we would probably
Right.
have them pay for it, but also, we don't want it to be an onerous.
I would rather just have it covered. I mean, the village can say no, right?
Yeah.
Because in our law, do
Throw
we
it in there.
have we don't have an application or an application fee for somebody to nominate something.
Mm.
We have a process, but we don't have a,
well, the application fee is $35 regardless.
but somebody wouldn't fill out like this application if
No.
they were
And
nominating.
in fact, that's when we get the design standards back, that's one of the loose ends that we need to go back and deal with, is getting a process made and
landmark.
up on the website so that it's there,
So that people can
so that people could nominate things.
present
Yeah.
nominations. Yeah.
And hopefully
Okay.
they will.
I can't imagine that would be done by the end of the year, but I guess in the interim, we should put in the budget for 1 or 2 postings.
Yeah, okay.
It would actually probably be,
It's not a lot of money,
it
and
would
they can
probably
say
be
no.
2, because don't we have to
Yeah.
post it twice in
Right.
our own
Right,
law?
right,
Oh, there you
right,
go.
right. And she's asked us to calculate number of times we think we'll meet per month and the length of each meeting to get to Michael's number. Obviously with seeker, the changes in seeker, we're not gonna have that series of meetings like we did with 126 and
Right.
29 to 33. I think it's probably safe to go back to 2 times a month and maybe put in 3 extra meetings or something.
That sounds reasonable.
Right,
And-
so, okay, so 2 times a month times 2.5 hours?
Ideally.
Sure. But, so that's 5 hours a month, so that's 60 hours a year.
I think, honestly, I think it's probably more reasonable to say 3 hours.
3 hours, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 periodic meetings. I mean, there are times when we have separate public hearings. 3, 4,
Plus an extra, so you're saying 3 hours per month?
I'm saying 6 hours per month.
Oh,
2
6
meetings
hours.
at 6 hours, and then 4 additional
Gravy.
meetings that could appear somewhere during the year
At another 3 hours each.
at another 3 hours each.
I would, yeah.
Or you could do those at 2 hours each.
So it's 7, so it's 84 hours. Roughly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can draft based on this conversation and then send it round
Okay.
because it has to go into her on the 19th. When Al, I didn't think to ask him when I was on the phone with him. He normally does the annual report. This is also due the 19th.
Oh,
If
shit.
he's,
I just deleted the email that of yours that I was reading.
oh, you scared me when you were. We don't have a lot to do this year, but I know we're gonna have to pick it up if he's gone. Let's confirm that he is gone, right? It was the 19th that was due, right? The annual report?
I
Our annual
don't have
report?
my email.
We have to, as a certified local government, we have to turn in an annual
Oh, right.
report. He usually does it, but I think he's gone until it's due. He's going to Mexico or something. Annual report, here it is, due
March 29th.
March 29th. Oh no, that's the application deadline for the CLG. Annual report, well, they don't have the date. They don't have the date in the email. And it doesn't seem to appear. Alright, so let me
This is
call,
OES.
what's his name, McEnany, and find out when due.
It doesn't even, it's not even attached to the email that Al sent us.
It is, it's attached to the one from Daniel,
Is it?
that he forwarded, that Al forwarded, from Daniel McEnany.
Oh. It's not coming up as an attachment on my phone.
Okay, so the questions are ones most of them we can answer easily. Tax incentives, do we have a local grant program? Do we have a property acquisition program? No. Have we encountered any difficulties, e.g. administrative procedures, enforcement, staffing, funding, or public support?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. How many meetings has the Board of Commission held? We'll just have to go back to minutes and look at that. Has there ever been an absence of quorum or an inability for us to conduct business? No. Training. What training? I think you were the only one who attended training this year, and that was the state camp session, yeah. Please indicate what, if any, information or training your CLG might need from SHPO. Is there anything we want to request from them?
I can think of.
I mean, the only thing that we ever really needed lots of reiteration on was
Seeker stuff was.
and now we're not really doing that anymore, so.
Yeah. If they wanna throw more seeker information our way, I would say that, because it's
Well, I
really
have
intense.
I would like to understand in a way that's, and it's expensive to talk to John about it,
Right.
I don't understand how we went from the level of review we were at in type 1 down to nothing
Yeah.
Right.
in contiguous to or within the national district. So it seems like it's a huge shift without any kind of moderating anything.
Well,
If they wanna send someone to us to talk about seeker, I mean, that is, in an ideal world, that's what I would ask for, because, yeah, it's, there's a lot riding on that process.
Right, but, and I don't understand,
And
I don't
there's-
understand how,
We constantly have questions we have to pay our lawyer for.
well, and are we, if the type 1 if the type 1, no, the type 1 definitions seem to have shifted so much so that I'm not even clear that we need to be doing findings for every application.
right.
So it's
If they
it's a
could clear
question.
that up,
Okay.
that would be great.
Survey inventory, did we conduct? Not in this fiscal year. Did we conduct a survey? Did you designate new landmarks? No. Design review, how many properties did your local government review for compliance with your law? That's gonna be going through agendas, that's a pain in the butt. Describe any difficult cases or recurrent design review issues that have been problematic.
Difficult cases.
I mean, we had 2 seeker reviews, that was difficult.
Mm-hmm,
We had 3 secret reviews.
yeah,
3,
we had
33,
the Suttons,
120, oh, Sutton.
yeah. At one point, I think they were all overlapping too.
They were all overlapping.
I would also say too that I find, I mean, difficult is all relative. I find our review of the Silver Spoon building to be something that is difficult because, you know, in our capacity, we can only really talk about the exterior facade visible from the public right of way, which we did, and I think we did a good job of doing it. But ultimately, we are sort of signing off on a change of use in a building that's really going to affect the streetscape.
Uh-huh.
And that's something that's sort of, you know, I mean, if we can, that was just a difficult conversation to have, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It was a difficult conversation to have, you know, and luckily, you know, I didn't think of it at the time, but having watched the planning board deliberation,
Mm-hmm.
I am going to do a better job myself of having the comp plan at
Yeah.
hand.
Exactly.
Because that, having that information, I knew in my head somewhere that we had talked about, as a village, we had talked about changing.
But even if somebody is, but again, it's still beyond it's beyond what our board is capable of, like, approving or denying, or even
Absolutely.
asking them. Like, he could have just come in and said, I mean, he didn't even have to show us floor plans.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even have told us that it was all becoming a hotel. He could have just said, I need to add these air compressors to the side of the building. And what I wouldn't want would be to move forward with other applicants where they're giving us such a finite, minuscule amount of information that we can't have, like, a fruitful discussion and also use our brain trust to sort of
Right.
problem solve. I mean, I
Right.
think,
To put those air compressors in the least.
yeah, I mean, I think
impactful
having
place.
conversations with people
You
without
have to
floor
know.
plans
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
it's almost impossible because
Because it's driving.
it's so hard to understand,
Right.
you know, why this window is going here and not over
Well,
here,
especially
and
with a
why
commercial
the
building.
window is being
Yeah.
added, or, you know,
Yeah.
so it's this weird sort of question of, I think that it's in the planning board's purview to say, we don't approve the change of use of this building because our comprehensive plan doesn't support it. I don't think we have any power to say we don't approve of. Now, if they submit an application where they're changing any of the storefront windows to egress windows, that's a different story because we want the building to read as a storefront.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have a building on Main Street in a pretty prominent location that the windows have been totally covered up in black fabric for the 4
Years.
years that I've lived in the village. Never, and occasionally there's an inflated penguin in the window. So it's like, you know, what's the
Well,
difference?
that was one of the cases that drove that objective in the comp plan. A question of covering over, I'm sorry, I don't mean that. I mean, it's driven discussion on the code update
Mhm.
committee about distance back
Yeah.
from windows.
But that's
can
not
hang
even
things
but that's
and-
not even a use necessarily because
No, it's
there are
not.
other retail spaces that are used as office spaces that do not have that same
Yeah.
situation. So that was,
So maybe that, I wonder if that can be part of our question about, part of our request about training is how do you best
Other
advise
people
we
dealing with
handle,
it.
yeah,
yeah.
okay. Our achievements, we have lots of achievements to talk about, we had our ordinance passed, we
Mhm.
mostly made our way through the design standards. Goals or initiatives for the upcoming year, well, goal is to finalize the design standards,
Yeah, and start giving out awards.
yeah. Yes, I'd really, really, really like to do that this year.
I love the award idea.
Okay, so let me find out when this is due, if it is due on Tuesday.
They sent it to Al on the 29th. I can't imagine it's due on the 19th. That's like
Oh, it is only January 29th that they sent it, you're right.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's find out when the due date is. Now we've got an outline for response and to get started.
I don't
with.
even know if there is a deadline. I just think they send them out and they say send them back. I mean, it's such a
Well, we can get started on it, and Carolyn's good at the nitpicking, tabulating of number of buildings, et cetera. Okay, correspondence is something we can't deal with, cause it needs Al's signature, related to to drawdowns from the Krupp, escrow. So that's all we have for correspondence. Anything else?
Nope.
nope.
Okay, motion for adjourn?
I will make that motion.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Boom. Thank you for going through that report.
No problem.